Hello and welcome to Breakfast Central on a Tuesday morning. It feels really good to be back here on a very, I'd say, bright and beautiful morning, even though we're expecting it to shower a little bit after it's been dry for a period of time. And by the way, we're in January, and January is very fast. It's no longer slow like Nigerians would say. It's a slow January. My name is Joe Hansen, and I'm saying welcome and good morning.
And I am Musao Gilbo. Yes, it's been a pretty fast month. I'm not sure why exactly, but it's definitely one of the fastest Januaries in January history. Thank you very much for joining us. We have the next 2 hours to share with you the leading conversations happening here in Nigeria, and also encourage you as always to be a part of these conversations by simply tweeting at News Central TV. Share your thoughts with us. If you're watching us on YouTube from any other parts of the world, then kindly also leave a comment in the YouTube comment section. We have a lot of conversations this morning, but we probably would start with, have a quick chat on the presidential inauguration yesterday for America's 47th President Donald Trump. Very interesting, very interesting day for America yesterday. And I tweeted on a few things that I found interesting. I think one of them was the inauguration itself, the whole process from, when it started to when it finally ended, where he started signing executive orders here and there. One thing that you cannot miss for them on that side, they would see it as a norm, but, it was important, that I pointed it out, and that is the order in the whole process. It was one of the most orderly processes that you would ever get to witness. There was no crowd, there was no shouting, there was no hype men, there were no, people from different states doing march past. There was nothing that every single aspect of it, it was it felt like it was drawn on a script and everything went as planned. Everybody came in there at the exact time that they were meant to come in. Everybody was seated at the right time they were meant to be seated. The whole process, including taking the oath of office, every single detail of it. You can see the order with which they did it. And I said yesterday that Eagle Square should be, a little bit ashamed of itself because of what we do when we have, the same process, a change of government in Nigeria. For me, it is also a representation of how America as a country tells its story and represents itself to the outside world, which is very important. It's not simply a situation where, they have better event planners. No, that's not it. It is how they want the world to see them. It's how they present themselves to the outside world. And that's why I brought the Eagle Square comparison, that when we do the same thing here, that is not the image that we should be showing to the outside world, that this is the giant of Africa, and look at the way that we carry out our own presidential inauguration. So for me, it was a very important detail yesterday. And of course, aside other things, of course, like the presidential pardons for the January 6 convicts, the ones who have been in jail, he pardoned them. Of course, as Joe Biden also gave out, thousands of pardons before he left. Him also speaking on the male and female gender in America, which many people have also, applauded President Donald Trump for, saying that it really, if a president would need to mention that, and of course receive a round of applause, it really just tells you the madness that has gone on in the U.S. in the last 4 years. So there is that as well. He also completely trashing the Biden administration while they all sat down there beside him. He spoke his mind about what the previous administration was, and how they had focused more on foreign conflicts and foreign countries and abandoned the American people. The American people and American crisis that needed support and needed funding were completely abandoned for the Biden administration to be focusing on other countries and fixing other countries, while Americans suffered. And it was interesting to see him do it right where every single, one of these presidents, where Joe Biden was there, Barack Obama was there, Hillary Clinton was there, everybody from the previous administration almost was there, except Michelle Obama, who, somehow, some way didn't show up. So it was a very interesting experience, just witnessing every single detail of that inauguration yesterday. And of course, he said America's decline is over. There was also something critical that he said about the new age of America being back. He said the golden age of America begins now. So for me, I found it very interesting, and I applaud them for for at least showing the world, how it should be done, I believe.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Anyone who watched the inauguration would see a lot of pomp and pageantry, how it was indeed done. It was seamless. It was smooth. And that's what you expect from a country that has been doing this for a long time, a country that puts perfection as its goal, a country that says that, listen, if we need to achieve anything, we need to ensure that we achieve it 100%. If it's not 100%, then they are not interested in doing so. Talking about that as well, let's be honest, I also try to see a bit of similarities. I mean, it's good to know that you were looking at the similarities you saw at the inauguration. I was also seeing mine as well. Part of the similarities I saw between that of Donald Trump, which is in the United States, and coming back home in Nigeria, is that grandiose statements, mentions, talks, pronouncements were being made right there during his speech. Because during his speech, he had said, see, this is we're going to be Americans, it's going to be all about America. I also took note of what he said, especially when he talked about the taxation, that he was going to ensure that he would tax the international community or the foreign countries and ensure that Americans benefit from that taxation system and not tax the Americans, in order for them to equally benefit from that same tax. In other words, he's saying that if he's going to deal with the international community, we do know that China is also on that list pretty much. But just to highlight again, he did talk about a lot of things that he was going to do on the get-go. Yeah. It kind of like made me remember the similarity of what we saw when President Tinubu said subsidy is gone. Yeah. But the difference with that statement that was made by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Donald Trump is that, of course, we do know the difference. One of the major differences is that there are indeed things, in quotes, put in place to ensure that these things would indeed happen, compared to what we have here, where a statement was made and there seemed to be no prior plan.
Yeah, but so Donald Trump will also be criticized. I don't think, every single detail of yesterday, would be applauded. There will be critics. Sure. Him withdrawing the United States from the WHO, which receives about 15% of its funding from the United States, will also be criticized, because people are going to ask why. What is the reason, that the U.S. no longer wants to be funding, partnering with the World Health Organization? So there's a couple of details here and there that, will come up for conversation, and people will interrogate these things well. I don't think, he's perfect, but like he says, America first, we'll see. All right, let's quickly share with you what our top stories are this morning, and then also bring you breakfast headlines.
This morning on Breakfast Central, Donald Trump sworn in as 47th U.S. president. We'll talk about this and share more analysis on that. I am ready for Fubara, the Supreme Court. Wike, taunts as he is indeed ready to go full throttle. Reps decry poor allocation to intelligence subsector. We have this story. And not forgetting to Wale Edu identifies inflation as major economic challenge. He's not hiding it, he's saying it as it is. And then newspaper front pages where you can be part of it. The phone lines are back and running and you can join us. But first, let's bring to you breakfast headlines.
Welcome to Breakfast Headlines. Now let's start by telling you that the Nigerian Communications Commission has approved requests from network operators for tariff adjustments in response to rising operational costs, marking the first change in rates since 2013. The decision, announced in a statement signed by the Director of Public Affairs, Ruben Walker, on Monday, allows for a maximum adjustment of 50% to current tariffs, significantly less than the over 100% proposed by some operators. The NCC said it is exercising its authority under Section 108 of the Nigerian Communications Act 2003 and emphasized that the new tariffs would remain within the limits outlined in its 2013 cost study. According to the Commission, the adjustments will also adhere to its 2024 guidance on tariff simplification, ensuring transparency and fairness in implementation. And the Kano State government has proposed a land and financial support for the construction of a secretariat for the Police Officers' Wives Association in the state. The governor, Abba Yusuf, made this known following the visit of the POA president to the Kano State Government House, where he commended the association for their effort in reducing thuggery and promoting peace in the state. Also in the news, South African police announced on Monday that they had launched a manhunt for James Neil Shoeli, known as Tiger, who escaped from custody after being arrested along with 1,907 illegal miners at a disused gold mine in Stilfontein. Police Major General Patrick Sanang called the escape embarrassing and vowed those responsible for aiding it would be held accountable. Shoeli, a Lesotho national, allegedly received help from officials to escape. Over the past week, at least 246 miners, many frail and emaciated, and 78 bodies were brought to the surface after a months-long operation to clear the 2.6-kilometer shaft. Shoeli is accused of being responsible for deaths, assault, and torture underground. The miners, mostly foreign nationals, illegally entered the mine, once part of South Africa's thriving industry, to scrap remaining gold. And outside Africa, let's also tell you that Donald Trump has been sworn in for a historic second term as President of the United States, marking an extraordinary comeback. Trump took the oath of office beneath the rotunda of the U.S. Capitol. In his inauguration speech, Donald Trump said he was saved by God to make America great again. Well, still in the U.S., President Donald Trump declares that his return to power is a rejection of the radical and corrupt establishment he claims defined Joe Biden's presidency.
Our southern border. A tide of change is sweeping the country. Sunlight is pouring over the entire world, and America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before. But first, we must be honest about the challenges we face. While they are plentiful, they will be annihilated by this great momentum that the world is now witnessing in the United States of America. As we gather today, our government confronts
Meanwhile, President Donald Trump declared that America's decline is over. Well, that's all on breakfast headlines. Let's now move back to Breakfast Central and, of course, share with you our top stories. I am Osaogi Ogbawa.
Welcome back. Nigeria's House of Representatives has raised concerns over the persistent underfunding of the nation's defense sector, especially the defense intelligence subsector in the last 3 years. Chairman of the House Committees on National Security and Intelligence says that this is affecting the performance of frontline agencies responsible for countering violent extremism, terrorism, and the movement of small arms and light weapons, amongst others. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, has more on this story.
It is the first day of budget defense exercise for the week. At this session at the House of Representatives in Abuja, several officials from the security and intelligence subsector have appeared to defend a budget proposal of over 595 billion naira. Lawmakers, however, say this is inadequate for their operations.
Going by the submission before the committee, it is heartbreaking that the agency like the Department of State Services, the Office of the National Security Advisor, the National Center for Counterterrorism has not gotten enough capital releases for the year 2023 and 2024. The National Institute of Security Studies, National Center for Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons are yet to receive a single kobo for the capital project 2024.
While they expressed concerns over the poor funding of the subsector, they called on President Bola Tinubu to intervene.
I am therefore calling on Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, to please intervene, not just for an increase in the allocation to the agencies in the intelligence sector, but to also direct the Honorable Minister of Finance to, as matter of national security, prioritize the full release of all the outstanding 2024 budget allocation to the intelligence agencies.
The session also saw officials from the office of the NSA voice their concerns about the nation's envelope budgetary system.
It is worthy to note, Mr. Chair, that the envelope system of budgeting provides a lot of constraint in terms of resource allocation to the intelligence community. However, despite these challenges, the agencies try to strike a balance between their operational needs and the government fiscal constraints.
Following an end of an executive session that lasted nearly an hour, lawmakers unanimously adopted the 2024 budget appraisal and the 2025 budget proposal for the defense intelligence subsector, estimated at over 595 billion naira. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonk Joseph.
All right. Well, there you have it, an update from that story, especially from our man, Idonk Joseph. Well, everything that's got to do with security, we do hope that it will lead to a vital benefit, especially for Nigerians, and not forgetting too for the current administration who are pulling their weights to ensure that Nigerians can eventually live without being bothered of caring so much about the insecurity that's continuing to bedevil the land. But let's move and start off our story, next story, I beg your pardon, in the United States, which is where we are going to. Donald Trump, yes, he's officially back as the 47th president of the United States, kicking off his second term in classic Trump style. Now, love him or hate him, Trump's second term is already making waves following his inauguration speech, where he declared a national emergency at the southern border.
A national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations.
Well, Donald Trump insists the United States will take control of the Panama Canal. He also said that he will send troops to handle immigration. Additionally, Donald Trump drew a hard line on gender, saying the U.S. government will only recognize two genders, male and female, and vowed to stop what he called social engineering of race and gender.
The United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Well, joining us to discuss key takeaways from President Donald Trump's inaugural speech is political analyst Joy John. Good morning, and thanks for joining us again this morning. It appears you're still muted.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, now we can hear you. Good morning. I mean, first of all, I think I can say congratulations. Yesterday went pretty well, even if it didn't it did come with bits of controversy here and there. So I'm going to start with, I mean, there's too many things that were, mentioned yesterday. The executive orders that have been signed, statements that he made in his inaugural speech and whatnot. So I think we should start with the pardons, that he gave. There's news that he has pardoned some of the January 6 accused. So let's start with that. How controversial is that? And was that always expected?
Well, it is definitely controversial, and with the president, he has the powers to sign into order whatever he deems appropriate. We did speculate that, but it just it didn't come as a surprise. But I think it was hit with a lot of backlash.
All right, let's talk about how there's going to be a lot of reactions, especially looking at the executive order.
Yes.
How do you think, how are the reactions coming? Let's just go straight to that. How do you think people would react to the executive order, especially the other political parties that would be there? Talk about even those who had initially said that they doubt he would put the executive order or push it immediately, possibly give it some time. Tell us about the reactions.
Well, the early reactions were reflected a mixed response amongst the American people. Supporters celebrating his bold approach and critics questioning his feasibility of his promises. We know that shortly after his inauguration, he signed a series of executive orders marking a significant policy reversals in many areas. We're looking at the WHO rolling back protections for transgender individuals and imposing tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. So we anticipated that it was coming. He said that on the campaign trail, and he did it. But overall, it was a day of reflection, resolve, and I think I would say a renewed hope for the United States.
Yeah, I mean, but it might also come a little shocking, about going ahead with the WHO withdrawal that, he's just done. Has he given proper reasons? Mm-hmm. Do the American people know the reasons why he's done that?
Absolutely, absolutely. He did state it was due to the way they handled the COVID-19 pandemic, and he did this in 2020, but Biden reversed it. That was when he started it. So for this, it didn't come as a surprise for me.
Yeah, so if he's going back to COVID-19, does that, maybe put any fears that he still is going to be taking swipes at those who, maybe made his first time as president a little tough? I mean, and if the likes of Anthony Fauci weren't pardoned by Joe Biden, should they also be worried?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'll say that Fauci feels he didn't do anything and did not deserve a pardon, so that's different. But with the WHO and the situation surrounding it, I think that it's beyond just the way it was handled. He also feels that the United States is billed higher than other countries. So there are other factors that went into that consideration for him to notify the WHO that the United States will pull out.
Okay, let's take a look at possibly we do have a graphic to display right there on the screen and see some key takeaways of the speech that Donald Trump made. So I'm going to start off first with immigration enforcement. Of course, declaring a national emergency at the southern border. Deploy national troops to enforce immigration laws. As we speak this morning, we do hear that this has already started. I don't know if you also have information on that. We do hear that those who were likely looking to complete their documentation, there seems to be a halt on that. There are videos circulating online to show that it's quick and running. There's also free speech. He's signing an executive order to end censorship and restore free speech in America. And then, of course, the one we did mention earlier, the Panama Canal, assert U.S. control over the Panama Canal. But I'd like us to focus on one of these. Let's look at free speech. What has it been like in America in line with free speech? And now that Donald Trump is here, he's saying, listen, it's free speech for all. Let's feel free to talk.
Well, America has always been a land of the free. And one of our rights really is the freedom of speech. I don't think any president will stifle that. And Trump is, if anything, Trump is here to enforce that. Now, don't forget that in his first term, he was deplatformed from Facebook, Twitter at the time, and he had to go form his own platform, the Truth social media platform. First time ever a sitting president had to go through that. So I know that in this time, he will ensure that every American, going by what he went through, would have the right to free speech.
Okay, and it's also something important that we saw yesterday, and that was the presence of Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and every other major CEO, or almost every major CEO in America was present yesterday. What does that signify? Because we know what the last couple of years have been, even in his previous administration, and then when Joe Biden took over. What does that signify?
So for every other person, every multimillionaire, anyone in tech who's queuing in, they know why they're doing that. It's beyond what you and I see on the surface. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, and yes, I agree with you. They did contribute here and there. And of course, recently we've also seen Mark Zuckerberg speak, seemingly, badly about the Biden administration and, how they put pressure on him, in the early years of, Biden's, run in office. But I think it's also important to speak about the previous administration. While he was speaking yesterday, he gave a complete trashing to the Biden administration, while Joe Biden sat right next to him, there. Of course, Hillary Clinton was there as well. Barack Obama was also present, I beg your pardon. He gave a complete trashing to the Biden administration, as to how they ran the country, spoke about how they, had more money to fund other countries and put into other countries while Americans suffered back at home. Is that also very, very significant? And, do the American people still feel that way about the Biden administration?
There are two sides of the divide. Actually, I would say three. Those who are also on the fence or those who are independent. But then every American feels the pulse of what's going on in the country. Trump his statements in his speech yesterday was nothing different from what we had on the campaign trail. He bashed the administration while on campaign and during his ordeal, his legal travails in court. And his speech was no different from what we had expected or anticipated that he would say. But I would say that overall, he focused on economic resurgence, securing our borders, and restoring America's global strength. And those were key areas he felt that the Biden administration failed.
All right, let's look at what a lot of Africans have been used to, which is birthright citizenship. This no longer will hold. Have you gotten any reactions, especially from Americans? How do they feel about this? I do recall that during the road to leading to the elections, a lot of Republicans were in full support, in full swing of this, and saying that it no longer should hold, especially granting birthrights to anyone who just comes to the United States of America and decides to just give birth. Can you shed more light on this as well?
Yes, just to be clear, it's not just anyone. If your parents are citizens and you're born here, you have the right to citizenship. What it's affecting are people who come in undocumented, take advantage of the healthcare system, have their babies, and apply for citizenship. In this case, it would no longer apply. However, what he's doing is he's not going retroactive. It's going to be more for the future, like for if someone comes in today and has a baby today, you're undocumented, your child will no longer qualify for the U.S. passport.
Okay. I also, want to ask about, when he's talking about the golden age of America, beginning, what exactly that means. And, so Donald Trump's first 4 years were really tough. He endured a lot of criticism from, both corporate media and even government agencies. I remember that there was I'm not sure who it was now, but somebody who was speaking and, talking about how he didn't obey Donald Trump's orders. He ensured that, people under him also didn't obey his orders, when he, had asked him to do one thing or the other. So it was a really tough 4 years for him. Do you expect it's going to be the same thing now? Is the criticism going to be as strong as it was in his first 4 years? Or is the American, system going to be more relaxed, and accepting of Donald Trump this time?
I don't think so. And that is what keeps democracy alive. I think that American people will still express themselves, even if they are members of his party. With Donald Trump, or with any government here in the United States, our citizens keep the leaders in check without fear of any harassment or anyone trying to shut them down or arrest them, kidnap them, none of that. So he will be kept, the administration will be kept on their toes. When you talk about the golden age for America, the new age for America, I think that what he's calling for is national unity. He's calling for unity, uniting both parties and framing his agenda as one that will be received and respected or well received by both parties. And he wants to strengthen national identity rather than embracing the global collaboration. So he's more of thinking inwards within America.
Yeah, and what are your expectations with America's foreign policy, going forward? He has a couple of people that, he has appointed, that, a lot of analysts also have, their worries about, but Donald Trump has said that he's here to bring peace. Do you expect that he will succeed with the people that he has around him? A lot of them have been described as war hawks. And so will he succeed in actually bringing peace? Do you think America's foreign policy will be able to actually stabilize the world? You can look at the wars that are going on, the Russia-Ukraine crisis, the war in the Middle East as well. And of course, China, also in the picture. So will he be able to have a stable foreign policy that actually brings peace to the rest of the world, especially with the people he has around him?
I believe so. I know that there have been some controversy or criticism surrounding his picks, but Secretary of State Marco Rubio is no stranger to the political scene. He's paid his dues in politics, and we know him. We know his views and what he stands for. I believe that with Secretary of State like Marco Rubio, we will be able to foster a better relationship with our allies and with the global community at large. You talked about the way people perceived him. Everyone is watching Trump, and with Trump, really, I did say in one of my.
We could give him. I mean, some people have given him kudos for Tulsi Gabbard's, appointment. Marco Rubio, yes, definitely, has, people worried. But my concern really is his ability to put his foot down, when these people are around him, and mostly because of the relationship the United States has with Israel. They call it their greatest ally, but there's a lot of people who do not agree with that. And the ability to stop the wars in the Middle East, to stop the death in the Middle East. Joe Biden was heavily criticized for failing to do that, and it's maybe one of the major reasons that he also lost, the election, for failing to stop the murder and the killings that were going on in the Middle East, by simply just calling them, his best allies. Anthony Blinken, of course, right next to him. And so my worry really is, does Donald Trump have the capacity to withstand that pressure from the Israel lobby and from other, foreign lobbies that might be, around his government?
Well, as a citizen here, I would want to stay optimistic, but I believe that when he embarked on his second missionary journey to become president, he knew what the odds were, he knew what the problems were, and obviously had formed a team to guide him. Allies and rivals are closely watching the start of his second term, so it's going to be an interesting 4 years ahead.
All right. Let's talk about the social media giants. I mean, talk about Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and the likes who were dearly present. Can we also talk about the swift change, especially from Facebook, especially for users? If you get on Facebook this very minute and hour, I don't know if you've seen the changes very quickly where Mark has gone ahead to make that clear that he has removed transgender and non-binary themes from Meta's Messenger. How impactful do you think Donald Trump would be, especially pushing his plans, especially for America? How do you think it will impact heavily on the social media space, especially for the owners? Do you think they would bend very quickly to ensure that they align, or do you think there will be some form of pushback if there is?
I believe there'll be pushbacks where necessary, but for the most part, when a president signs an executive order or issues an executive order, you follow through, especially if you're a U.S.-owned company. It's a different thing if we're talking TikTok, that's Chinese-owned. But if you're owned by a U.S. Entity, you would have to comply to the law. So I'm not surprised with what happened on Facebook and also on Instagram as well, which is all owned by Meta. It didn't come as a surprise for me, but like I did say, it's going to be an interesting 4 years, but everyone will fall in queue. Trump is what we call the typical no-nonsense. And don't forget, he's not your typical politician that has to say something to make you happy. He shoots from the waist down and says it how he wants to say, but then
I mean, the next 4 years would know how, we'll see how things turn out for America and, of course, for the rest of the world. John, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and we'll speak with you again.
Thank you for having me.
The FCT Minister Nyesom Wike has made it clear that his rift with River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara is here to stay. Wike recently called out Fubara and his team for not following the 8-point peace deal brokered by President Tinubu in 2023.
Well, let's also tell you that in a media chart, Mr. Wike noted that Governor Fubara's team should have gone back to President Tinubu if they had issues following through with the peace deal. Let's see if we can get that statement as well.
I've never seen that happen in my life. A president of a country will call people, sit them down, do this. One party goes, it's political, it's not binding, it's not constitutional. Come on, who does that? Who does that? Who does that? And then you are talking about conflict, tension, this and that. You went and you see assembly people money, their salaries, everything, took it. And you're running with 3-member assembly in Nigeria. All of you, journalists appearing in your television houses, appearing, justifying, including the court. No, listen, never.
Well, recall that the rift started after Fubara got sworn in as governor, and the two have been battling for control over Rivers' political game since then. Well, joining us now is PDP chieftain Demola Olarinwaju is here live with us in the studio. I'm sure, first of all, let me just get your pulse on that. How did you react to the comments made by the FCT minister, former River State governor, who happens to also be a patron in the PDP?
Well, I think former Governor Nyesom Wike, Minister of the FCT, I think he represents, first of all, an internal contradiction within the political space. A PDP member serving under an APC government, it's a contradiction. I think also that his focus is too political, and when he has a platform with the media, I think he should use it to talk more about his job description rather than about his rift with anybody or trying to take shots at people. Having said that, I think he's unhappy, clearly, with the fact that his proposed third-term ambition thought he was going to govern by proxy. He's unhappy that that is not working. He's unhappy that, and clearly, from his comments, he's unhappy that not everybody places President Bola Tinubu on the same high pedestal that he places him. He's saying he was almost speaking as if the president is God, that whatever agreement was reached is sacrosanct. And it is clear it wasn't constitutional. And so, nobody else is bound by that.
Is all of this, I mean, also speak on the 8-point peace deal that he's speaking about here, is mentioning here. It was supposedly meant to be the thing that brought peace to River State, at least cleared their rift. Is there a possibility that Governor Fubara disagreed with the points in that agreement?
Well, I mean, it's a lot of complexities when you talk about the political implications of it. You had people who defected from one party to another political party. They came out openly and said they are defected from the PDP, and their seats were supposed to be declared vacant. Now, one of the conditions of that so-called peace deal was that, those people would be restored into their offices, that they will be restored back as House of Assembly members. But unfortunately for Nyesom Wike, no sooner had those people come back than they started trying to make trouble all over again. They started trying to impeach the governor. And political watchers raised the alarm, especially in Rivers State. People of Rivers raised the alarm and said, look, if these people are going to come back and create problems, then the peace deal is unworkable. So there can be no peace deal unless both parties are interested in peace. Nyesom Wike has never been interested in peace in Rivers State. He is clearly not happy, like I said, with the fact that somebody he supported to become governor is now governor. Okay, that he is governor by himself. He thought that he would be able to control him, but that's not happening, and that's why there's no peace. So the peace deal itself, by the time they got to the point of restoring the House of Assembly members, the first move of those House of Assembly members was to try and, whittle down the powers of the governor. And that clearly was unacceptable to the people of Rivers State. Governor Fubara has asserted himself on the polity in Rivers State, and the peace is very clear. So his attempt, to continue to make himself relevant by continually, going to the media to talk, to say things, going to churches to talk, I think, he should focus more on playing the role of a saboteur in PDP and as a lackey of the APC.
Is that how, the vast majority of PDP members see Nyesom Wike as a saboteur?
Well, for anybody who's a PDP member in truth, and anybody who understands the clamor of Nigerians for a true opposition party, I think that that is how we see him. Of course, for a lot of people, well, for some persons within the hierarchy of the PDP who continue to allow this internal contradiction to stand, I think, they do not see it that way. They see themselves as only in PDP in body, not in PDP with their soul. And I think, the time, for PDP to wake up to its responsibility as an opposition party and to remove those internal contradictions within its ranks, I think that time is shortening.
Does the PDP chairman see Nyesom Wike the same? Who is even the PDP chairman now? And does he also see Nyesom Wike as a saboteur? Well,
Ambassador Ilya Damagum is the acting PDP chairman at the moment. Well, I see his role as a little less than acceptable. As someone who has been a PDP member for quite a while, and I speak as that, you cannot say that you are the chairman of Nigeria's largest opposition party and you are not able to sanction a member who has clearly promised to work against the interest of the party in 2027. He has openly said that he's going to work with Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So I think, the PDP has lost several opportunities to instill discipline within its ranks, to rise up and become the opposition that Nigerians want. I think, the time for that may have even elapsed. And I think, it is a failure of the leadership of the party.
But there seems to be a lot of PDP party members who are currently decamping to APC. And there are questions if the PDP is strong enough to actually go into 2027 elections with a certainty that they would come out victorious. Doesn't that bother you that the party is slowly losing its power, its strength, and its ability to actually win elections?
I think 2023, I think it destroyed several things within the polity. One of it is the fact of anti-party activities led by Nyesom Wike, no less. And I think, from that point on, there has to be realignment within the polity. I think those realignment will happen soon. I think that the PDP will either need to be a part of that alignment or, align itself fully with the APC. It's a situation for me of the APC versus Nigerians. PDP may not necessarily be the platform that will be the political vehicle for that agitation. It's a worry for many of us, but a lot of members are indeed frustrated with PDP's inability to manage itself and to project itself as an opposition party in Nigeria. Yes, many members are indeed worried, but a lot of us are looking to the future, and we are looking forward to, and we are open, to any realignment process that will benefit Nigerians.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell that you're also not very happy with the party. You called it the largest opposition party in Nigeria, but many people would even say that that is, just by name. It's not necessarily the party that has the followership that it should have as the largest opposition party in Nigeria. You've also expressed your discomfort with the way the party has been handled. It failed to hold its National Executive Committee meetings. You can tell that there's a lot of disgruntled voices within the House. And I'm just going to read your post on X a while ago. It's this year even. It says the problem with fighting people who want to destroy the House is that your fight back is exactly what they need to tear down everything. Personally, there is nothing to fight for anymore in this party, but we salute the courage of those who are fighting back. There's not, if you say that there's nothing to fight for in the party, how is it still the largest opposition party, and why, do you still bother?
Well, by the position of several governors, by the position of its structure, the PDP in name, at least, is still the largest opposition party. But it is also a party that has failed to define itself as an opposition party. Fortunately or unfortunately, we have a political party that is unable to punish the internal contradiction within its ranks. Those who are fighting are, what they want is basically that fight situation. They want the PDP to be engulfed. So many members have to decide, do you want to stay within the party and fight, which is what they want, or do you want to move to another party and reorganize yourselves? And it's exactly what I've said here, that I'm looking forward to a political realignment of opposition forces in Nigeria. It doesn't necessarily have to be PDP platform, but I'm confident that many PDP members will be a part of that realignment. I believe it will happen this year. I believe there will be a political realignment of people who, it's either you are for Bola Tinubu as Wike is, or you are for the Nigerian people. And I think a platform will emerge. Whether PDP will be a part of that or not is left to see.
Yeah. Do you think that the current PDP that we see today is the same PDP of yesteryears, if you put it that way? And do you also think that, by the way, do you have a presidential candidate internally? Because there are still conversations about former, candidate Atiku Abubakar still running, wanting to run for 2027, and there are mixed reactions as to why he shouldn't. Can you shed more light on what the internal wrangle is all about and the possibility of having a candidate eventually? Because many have said that if the PDP has not put its own house in order, how is it possible that they would be able to, run for 2027?
So I think it's several things. I think the PDP itself, like I said, the conversation, I think, has gone beyond PDP at this point. For the fact that PDP has not been able to distinguish itself as an opposition party, for the fact that it has not been able to differentiate between itself and the APC, it's a major problem. I think that, PDP today is not what PDP used to be. It's no longer the party that it used to be, and that's a problem. So that's as far as that. Those who try to make it about the presidential candidates or make it about presidential aspirants would understand that you first must have a political party before you can talk about the candidates or the aspirants. If a party is not viable, then it is not viable. As it is today, PDP lacks the ability to win a national election, not when a former governor on the platform of your party is serving as a top minister of the present government. I mean, that's a contradiction. How will you win? Not when, people within your party, high-ranking members, are openly boasting that they will work for APC in 2027. And that's not what Nigerians want. Nigerians basically want, anybody or any party that can be different from the APC. So I think that's where the conversation is. They would, of course, want to always make it about, it's an aspiration of this person, an aspiration of that person, but no. First of all, it's the political platforms. Are you PDP or are you APC? This contradiction of PDP, APC or APC, PDP is not what Nigerians want. Okay, so I think that the most important conversation will be that political realignment and the coming together of opposition forces against the ruling party.
But you also, strongly or partly believe that the APC has, played its game very, very well in disabling the opposition parties, and of course, if you see what's going on with Julius Abure and the likes. So when you talk about a realignment, who is this realignment with? And if you were to paint a picture today, that if you are called now to chair and draw the strategy for realignment, what would that picture look like? And then you can also tell us what's going on in Edo State.
The first picture will be anti-APC. Anyone who's anti-APC can come in.
Yeah, but anybody can decide, you can call themselves anti-APC. The Labour Party can call themselves anti-APC.
Well, they need to have an antecedent. So even within the Labour Party, I was recently on a program, about a few months ago, I was on a program with one person who said he was the spokesperson of the Labour Party, and he was arguing for the APC. He was defending the policies of the APC government. So clearly, that those people do not have any antecedents that is anti-APC. For me, it's a coalition. It's a coalition of opposition forces. It's a coalition of people who want to rescue Nigeria. A lot of personalities will be involved. For me, last year, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar and His Excellency Peter Obi, they championed the cause of opposition very clearly. It's very clear. Blew open many scams of the government, blew open many things that are going on in the government. I think they've led well. So if you have, a coming together of those two forces on any political platform, I think that Nigerians will respect it and Nigerians will rally around it. Because one of the difficulties, for example, that the PDP is having in Edo State, as Osoroji mentioned, is the fact that the party at the national level is not giving the party at the state level the necessary backing that it's supposed to receive. Asoi Godalo ran a fine campaign. He is now in court. The party at the national level is boggled down by, different battles, a lot of things that should be done are not being done. The support is not being given to Asoi Godalo in that regard. Of course, he would not, come out to say that, but you see the PDP, PDP supporters have been attacked in Edo at the court premises. All that is going on. The party at the national level is not reacting. What they are reacting to is whether the National Public Secretary should be removed and whether the Deputy National Public Secretary should come in. Those kind of wranglings, I think, it alludes to what Osoroji was saying that I had said. This is the kind of thing that the likes of Nyesom Wike want to see in PDP. They want to see the fights. They want to see this person is suspended today, that person is not suspended, this person is in court. That is how they want to keep the PDP down. But fortunately, Nigerians have moved on from it. Fortunately, we are looking ahead and looking at how do we build a platform. I think that's the biggest political task for 2025.
When people hear of the PDP and the continuous mentions about the internal crisis, what's going on, and how it cannot be solved, most importantly, looking at the fact that the FCT minister, as many have alluded, that he seems to be like, in quotes, allegedly a mole, who is working for the APC and, of course, still in the PDP. And like you rightly said, he's there to ensure that he sees a lot of distractions and destruction, especially of the party. But many people are still asking, why is it so hard to ensure that you do not have such persons in the party? And if you were to mention 5 pillars of the PDP today, who and who would you call as the pillars of that party that are left, who can take such strong decisions and get the party reformed once again, preparing it for what is at stake in 2027?
I think every single pillar in the PDP understands exactly what is going on. If I can see it, many people can see it, many of these leaders can see it. There is an internal contradiction. And Wike is not a mole, allegedly. In fact, he is more than a mole. He's not just leaking information to the APC. He is actively and openly working for the APC. He has promised his loyalty to the APC. He has vowed openly that he's going to work in 2027 for Bola Tinubu's return. re-election as president. So he's clearly working against the interests of the party. There's no doubt about that. And high-ranking members of the party understand that this is a problem, because the first thing that makes you a political party is that you are all working in the same political direction. You are all working in a certain line. You are all working to remove the APC from power. So how can you have someone within the PDP who insists on working for APC? So I think all those pillars understand what is at stake. I think that the challenge that they might have is that many of them have fought battles over the years, and a lot of people are now weak, and so many people are not able to speak up. The BOT chairman, Adolfo Wabara, former Senate President Adolfo Wabara, has openly said just a few days ago that the PDP must hold its neck in February. I'm sure that the saboteurs will run to court and procure a court order very soon saying that neck should not hold in perpetuity. It is a contradiction. But rather than using our energies to fight for a platform that is weak, I think that some of us are now at a point where we want to use those energies to try and build a new political party.
Are you sure about that? So are you saying that there will be a new political party that will break away from the PDP? Is that what we may see anytime soon? That's one. Secondly, are you also guaranteeing, or would I say, can you openly state that, if you were offered a job in the APC, you would not take that job? We saw Daniel Bwala now. Daniel
Bwala came from APC. He has an antecedent within the APC.
Are you saying it's similar to what Wike is?
Well, he came out and openly defected. He left PDP. I think he's even more honorable than Nyesom Wike. He came out and openly said, I'm no longer in this camp, I'm coming to this camp. And when it was time for him to return, he returned. Nyesom Wike, this is a man who once compared PDP to malaria and compared APC to cancer. And now, he's openly, just yesterday, when he held his media chat, he said that he is now against state police. This is somebody who, as a governor, campaigned for state police. So Nigerians are beginning to see him, that he is flexible with the truth. He is not consistent with the truth. He speaks one truth while he is governor, and now that he is no longer governor, he's speaking another truth. He spoke one truth as a PDP member. Now that he's working for APC, he's speaking another truth. So I think, that contradiction is clear. We are not like those kind of people. We do not see them as political role models. We see them as people who are fair weather. And I point them to the person that he is serving, his principal, Bola Tinubu. If Bola Tinubu had joined PDP when he was the sole governor of APC on the ACN platform, would he be where he is today? So I think it's a problem when people cannot, stand uprightly for what they believe in. Like Bola Tinubu or not, one of the things that you have to admire about him is the fact that he stood as the only opposition governor in Nigeria to the PDP at that time. And when, fate decided to reward him with the presidency, he is now president. People like Nyesom Wike are not able to stand in one place, and some of us do not admire those kind of things. So I think, there must be a political realignment. Whether or not the PDP will be a part of it as a political party, I do not know, because there are forces that want to keep PDP subservient to the APC. But I am confident that the nationalist ideologues within the PDP will definitely be a part of that alignment. It might not be a new political party. I'm sure that it is going to be, or I can guess that it's going to be a political party that is already in existence. Patriots from all parties will probably coalesce in that party and start to build the structure of that party, ahead. Of course, there's always the possibility that you would have saboteurs within your ranks, but it is, I think our minds have to be open to the possibility that from 2023, even your closest governor, even your most vocal governor can betray you. And so for 2027, we will be on guard towards that.
Yeah. So you wouldn't move, right, if you were offered any?
No, definitely
now
not.
That Yorubas are getting everything.
Definitely not. You said?
I said now that the Yorubas seem to be getting everything.
Well, but the problem is, what is the benefit itself? What is the benefit to the Yorubas? Are the Yorubas buying pepper cheaper? There is nothing going on other than, we were once president. And even that "we" is in quotes because it doesn't put any money in my pocket. As a Yoruba man, I do not get preferential treatment if I want to buy petrol or if I want to buy a crate of eggs. It's the same price that is still being sold. So I think it's a major problem. And I think that the Yorubas are going to demonstrate this because very clearly there is a problem. A lot of Yoruba people are disappointed with the president. People are openly comparing him and saying that he is worse than Muhammadu Buhari. This is something that nobody expected. I think, the image is not good at all.
Yeah, well, saying nobody expected it, might be a stretch, because, all through the campaigns, the president.
I mean, to be worse than Muhammadu Buhari, I'm not sure we thought it could be this bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah, and anybody who's expecting different, I don't know why, because same thing. President Buhari back then, when he was campaigning, didn't really say anything convincing, that would, let any Nigerian know that this person actually means business.
I think the biggest difference is that I haven't seen the low bar that Muhammadu Buhari brought governance to. One expected that anybody who had watched Muhammadu Buhari for 8 years, Osaroje, even you would have been better, I would have been better, any of us here would have been better, because we would have been able to learn from those mistakes. And then Bola Tinubu comes in and he's actually worse than Muhammadu Buhari. I think, it's an embarrassment to any political watcher.
All right. Anyway. Great conversation we've had here. Thank you so much, Demola, for joining us and for breaking the ice and letting us know that you wouldn't be joining anytime soon. And most importantly, we should expect something coming from the PDP and possibly a merger of some sort, hopefully. Thank you so much for your time. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the front pages of the newspapers. Do stay with us. But
welcome once again. Now let's take you through the newspapers and share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. We're joined by the publisher, the niche newspapers, Mr. Ikechukwu Amechi. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, also, and it's always my pleasure being here.
Congratulations! I heard your president. I watched your president's inauguration yesterday. Congratulations! All right, let's start with the Punch newspapers this morning as quickly as possible. It says here, 50% tariff hike. Nigerians may spend 6.74 trillion naira on calls. Telcom's group insists hike should have been lower. Threatens suit ahead of February implementation date. Donald Trump returns as 47th U.S. president, rejects transgender and illegal immigration. Also, Sanwo-Olu pledges to work with new Lagos speaker. 6 killed, 3 injured in Ogun, multiple crashes. A court adjourns Dangote Refinery's 100 billion naira suit against marketers. Top of the screen there, you can see court condemns media trial, denies EFCC arrest warrant request, says Otudeco and others not properly served. These are the major stories. Farmer header crisis. More northern states adopt Ruga to curb clashes. And the Niger explosion death toll hits 98. Very sad.
Very, very sad. Let's move on to the next paper this morning. Let's take a look at this Nigeria. It's got one picture on the front page there, and that's, of course, the man known as Donald J. Trump, the 47th president of the United States of America. Trump, at swearing in, God saved me from assassin's bullet. From assassin's bullet, he says. If you watch that speech, he did talk about that, and he talked about how it pierced, how he felt it, through his ears, and how God saved him and brought him because, Anyway, says America's decline over golden age here. Ex-Presidents Bush, Obama, Biden witness grand event. Hillary present, Michelle stays away. There'll only be 2 genders recognized by the U.S. government, male and female. Wike commissions 5-kilometer Abaji Road, promises another. NCC approves 50% tariff adjustment for telecom operators. All right. Sanction on banks over cash shortage at ATM timely, according to experts. I'd love to ask if there's money in the ATMs now. It's something I'd love to check today. And finally, Solid Minerals now summons Edun Bagudu over poor budgetary provisions. 46 billion naira for Labour Ministry insufficient to attain set objectives. And Dingyadi tells National Assembly. That's all I'm taking on the front page of this Nigeria.
All right, so I think we should get straight into the conversation. There's unfortunately the EFCC story still didn't make it to the papers, and that is the reported shooting of a EFCC officer in Anambra State. It's not in any of the papers. It wasn't in the papers yesterday, I think. So I don't know if you follow that story. If you can quickly start with that before we get into the ones for this morning.
Well, what is there about the story is that an EFCC officer was killed in Anambra. Well, of course, there are conflicting stories as by who killed him and how he was killed. It behoves EFCC and, of course, the security apparatus we have in this country to carry out proper investigation. Look, this issue of media trial and all that, which EFCC is good at, should not be extended. We need to know what really happened to that officer, who killed him, where, and how.
According to the EFCC statement, they are saying that they went for a raid in the early hours, and bear in mind that they had they had banned night raids. It reportedly happened by 3 or 4 a.m. That night. According to what the news is saying, they in their statement said they went in the early hours of the 17th to, of course, do their raid, and in the course of the raid, that this person saw them through CCTV and then shot one of their officers. And when they went to the apartment, they found laptop and iPad and other things for medical supplies. He's accused of being into coding and medical supplies of doubtful legitimacy. So I think the key part really is that, for a long time, Nigerians have pointed out that this thing that EFCC does, where they go break down doors, in the middle of the night, in the early hours when it's still dark, people are sleeping, and you hear them making, raids into nightclubs or into people's private residences, claiming to be arresting internet fraudsters. Nigerians have complained bitterly over and over and over against it. If you remember the one that happened in Ibadan, where that video went viral, where they were slapping the hotel staff. And then when Ololukoyede came in, he banned these same night raids, which they have completely ignored in the whole conversation.
Perhaps that explains why the media is also not interested in that story, as it were. Like I said, I won't go for anything EFCC is saying, because it's like EFCC being a judge in its own case. We need to know, Nigerians need to know, in what circumstances did the guy die? Look, I'm always against the taking of life, particularly when it comes to security personnel. But you don't put yourself in harm's way unnecessarily, all in the name of enforcing the law. So we need to know if, as you rightly pointed out, EFCC had already banned night raids. Why did these guys go on that operation? Was it a rogue operation? Was it sanctioned? Who approved that operation? And the Nigerians need to understand how that officer was killed, by who. So all this story of EFCC that they went banging on the door, the guy saw them through his CSTV and started shooting, it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. So we need to know, and you see, like I said, the EFCC has almost perfected this art of media trial, whether it is in arrest of people or whether it is in the dissent. They do that, they try you, almost convict you in the court of public opinion. But when it goes to the real court, they don't have the evidence to match the allegations. That is why, in terms of the conviction, the only thing they succeed in doing is the Yahoo petitives. But when it comes to the politicians who have the capacity to fund their own defense, to get the best lawyers, they're almost zero in terms of the conviction, because they don't investigate. They don't come out with forensic investigation that will provide. Look, in other places, before even somebody is brought to the court, the plethora of evidence available is as good as having convicted you already. But here, you are arrested, all manner of spurious things are put out there in the media, and then that's when investigation will start. It doesn't make sense. So we need to know what happened.
Yeah, maybe the court should also allow that. I mean, not necessarily that we see anybody being killed, but at least let's see the CCTV and see whether they were properly dressed and identified as the FCC officers, and what time they got to this person's house. If
it must be thoroughly
at 7 a.m. or at 3 a.m.
It must be thoroughly investigated. Let me reiterate, I am against the killing of anybody,
absolutely.
particularly law enforcement officers. But then people should also be conscious of the fact that you don't go and carry out rogue operation. I'm not saying this is a rogue operation, but you don't go to carry out a rogue operation and put yourself in harm's way, all in the name of enforcing the law.
All right. Niger Delta explosion death toll, or Niger explosion death toll rather, hits 98. And shockingly, it's on the Punch, but it's in very, very tiny print on the top right corner of the Punch, almost like the story doesn't matter. But below it, you can also see court condemns media trial, denies the FCC's arrest warrant for Motudeko and others. You could pick any of them.
Again, well, the media trial again, EFCC. Look, we don't need all this bluster. EFCC is full of bluster. EFCC is full of all this nabragadocio, which does not do it any good. You don't convict, try people in the court of public opinion, in the media, even before the case comes up in the law court. So it doesn't make sense. If you have a case against Motudeko, I'm not a fan of his. I've heard stories about things that transpired while he was the chairman of First Bank. I'm not too sure that those things are things I would ordinarily endorse as a Nigerian. But people must have their day in the court. And it behoves EFCC to carry out thorough investigation as a crime-fighting agency of government. It behoves them to look. It is only when you carry out investigations thoroughly that you will be able to get conviction, particularly when it comes to high-profile cases like this, that those you are up against also have the resources to fight back. If it were ordinary people now, perhaps all these ones now we're talking about, Motudeko would have been in prison and maybe in prison for all week here. But he's not an ordinary person. He has a lot of money. So he can get the best senior advocates of Nigeria and all that. So the media trial, EFCC does more of media trial than carry out thorough investigation that can secure convictions in the proper law course. I'm talking about the other story. You know, Osa, again, that's the sad aspect of where we are today in Nigeria. Loss of lives. What is the worth of the life of an average Nigerian? Almost nothing. In a place where 98 people, in a country where 98 people lost their lives. And by the way, can you remember how many tanker explosions we have had, perhaps in the last 10 years, and how many people died as a result of that? So, people, it is no longer news that 98 people died. In fact, the question that should be asked is that, when is the next time? And how many people are going to die? What has the president done? You know, in any other country, if there is this level of this, and there even should be a national mourning. But who cares? The people have been buried in mass graves and all that, and everybody has moved on, waiting for the next time is going to happen. What are those steps that have been taken to ensure that it does not happen again? Why would petrol tankers still be on Nigerian roads every day? There was a time when there was this law that says that trailers and tankers should only be moving about
night.
Yeah.
At night. What happened? Why is that not the case today? There used to be pipelines from refineries that carry petroleum products from the refineries up north. Of course, all those ones have been destroyed. They are no longer there. So we have tankers all over the place, hauling petroleum products from Lagos to Abuja to Maiduguri to Sokoto and all that. So why wouldn't there be this kind of unfortunate accidents that will claim lives and all that? It is the sad reality of the Nigerian situation. And of course, you go on these Nigerian roads also. Look, I drove from Lagos to the east during the Christmas period. If you get to a place like the Benin bypass, it's a death trap. And mind you, we are at the peak of the dry season. I can assure you, when the rains come back, nobody can go on that road. And the tankers will be falling. And so, we are not serious in this country. It is sad that every day we come here, it's as if somebody takes joy in talking down on his country. But nothing gets better. My brother, nothing gets better. For a country that, there was this report the other day that the Minister of Works said that it will take 17 trillion naira to fix Nigerian roads. And you are not doing that. You are building a Lagos-Calabar coastal road with 15 trillion. Does it make sense? You need to drive on those roads. Right from, immediately you veer off from the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road and go to Shagamu. From Shagamu up until you get to Owerri, except for the second Niger Bridge, there is no stretch that you can say you will do 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers without seeing craters. So how can a country develop like that? And we come every day, budgets, all that. At the end of the day, nothing. They said Buhari borrowed money for infrastructure development. 1 year after, where are those infrastructure that Buhari had to push us back into the debt trap? Where did all the money go into?
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and I would always, whatever opportunity I have, always remind people that, the time factor is an important thing that you should never, ignore. The current administration has 4 years. You are likely going to go another 4-8 years. Think of how old you will be, and you still very likely will not see an improvement in the same road that you're talking about.
By May 29,
bypass, yes, will be 2 years.
By May 29, that will be mid-term. 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. Complete.
So there is nothing. And if again, the politics of 2027 had already started. Because for the average Nigerian politician, it is politics, not governance.
Yeah.
It is all about politics. He is sworn in today, is thinking of second term right from the first day. All the decisions, I'm not saying without this, except all the decisions that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has taken since he was sworn in on May 29, 2023, they are decisions that were informed by the politics of re-election. All of them. Whether it is giving 90...
Local government autonomy?
Everything. Whether it is giving 90 billion naira to Hajj the pilgrims in 2023, or whatever, it is to woo. Even the creating of the livestock ministry, which is not needed because the Minister of Agriculture should ideally be in charge of that. The creation of the local government autonomy is also geared towards the 774 local governments to wean them off the influence of the states.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's kindly hold on. Apologies. We have someone calling us from Egbeda. Good morning.
Oh, okay. We lost that.
Please go on.
So it is all about politics. Politics trumps governance in this country, and this is where we are. Like you rightly said, we'll finish another 4 years,
and then we'll look forward to another. Yeah.
And those roads will be in the state they are today.
Talking of roads, let's see if we can put up the Daily Trust and get you react on that very quickly. The Daily Trust newspaper has something on the front page that is very worrisome. It says federal government re-awards Abuja Kaduna highway contract to inactive company.
Nothing, Joe, nothing should surprise anybody in Nigeria. Look, I read that story, but it's a typical Nigerian story. I'm no longer surprised or embarrassed by which the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road, did it go through due process?
No.
How was it awarded? What contract has the Chagoris done? What is their track record in terms of road infrastructure that will make you award their company the biggest road contract ever in this country? One contract, 15 trillion, to only one company. Yeah. Now you revoke, okay.
Again, apologies. Good morning, Coyote.
Yes, good morning.
Morning, welcome. Go ahead quickly.
Yes, good morning. How are you today?
We're doing good.
We're
doing
good. Good morning too. I don't pity you go to the east during the Christmas of that bad road. You see, we know that there is nobody in this government that wants people to live this way. All they are looking for is to put us into serious problems so that we will not be able to fight against them come 2027. The issue is, look at the core rates that they have increased. Look at all the tariffs in this country that they have increased. And there is nothing like subsidy in our nation. Where do they do that? Which country that doesn't give subsidy? I don't know.
Well, anyway, I think we lost that call there, but we did get Dr. Kayode's summation there. I think he's also in line with what you have said, talking about the bad roads and how Nigerians are continuing to suffer in line with this. But you did mention the roads.
Joe, no, we're talking about the story in the Daily Trust.
Yes, Daily Trust.
The details of that story is that, of course, you know that that contract was taken away from Julius Berger because Julius Berger was asking for a variation and an extension, and they took it away. Fine. But how come of all the companies in this world, it's a company that is
inactive in the registers of the Corporate Affairs Commission, and that is against the law. It is unlawful, going by our statute books, to award contracts to an inactive, and they have traced the place the so-called company claimed to be his office. I think somewhere in Surulere. If you read that story well, people in that building say they are not aware of such a company. So it is, look, the level of impunity that is going on in government circles, particularly with the Bola Tinubu administration
in the last 18 or 19 months is unbelievable. And they don't care, because there's this feeling that the National Assembly has been conquered, and then they have the judiciary in their pockets. So who are you to talk? But let's watch and see.
It's mind-blowing, you know, and people joke around with these things when they see infrastructural projects happen in other countries, and they would say that in Nigeria, you know, if there's a particular highway that, you know, by the time Donald Trump is done with his 4 years, that road will still not be fixed. The average Nigerian will grow from his teenage years to his mid-40s, and Benin bypass will still not be fixed. And that is administration after administration, and promise after promise, and budget after budget, and minister after minister. And those roads would just still remain the way that they are. But they have some way to convince you that they've had a successful government. It's mind-blowing. I don't get it. I honestly do not get it.
It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing.
We're out of time. Ikechi Gomichi, thank you very much for joining us. And again, congratulations on your president's inauguration.
Look at what we have to also look at for is the implication of the Donald Trump presidency on Nigeria, on Africa, and we have to brace up. And look, if you listen to Donald Trump yesterday, perhaps you may begin to appreciate how deeply his presidency is going to affect Nigeria. I don't believe in Donald Trump. I don't think he's an exemplar of what a leader should be. But of course, he's not different from what Nigerian leaders are. But hey, it is what it is. Americans voted for him. And there's no dispute. Nobody went to court. So he is the president. That's the man they want. But America first policy is going to affect
Nigeria.
Now, the man is going to ramp up oil production and make things, in fact, his primary decision is to make America secure, energy-wise. That's going to affect international price of crude.
And the 15% forecast of...
Exactly. So how will that affect Nigeria? This country will be fixed by Nigerians in Nigeria. How are we doing that? I'm not too sure that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in any case, we don't have an ambassador as it is right now in the US, or in fact in any other country that I know of, since Bola Ahmed Tinubu came in and recalled all ambassadors. So these things are issues that we must begin to look at. This is a government that says it's going to bring down inflation to 15%. How? Because yesterday NCC approved a 50% increase in tariff, and which should be expected. So nobody should blame any of the companies, because they are providing services, and the prices of goods and services have skyrocketed. So it is affecting them. The issue is that this increase is also going to affect every other price.
Of course.
People who depend on internet, communications, everything. So how can that bring down inflation by the end of the year? It doesn't make sense. These guys are taking us for a ride. And the alien Nigerians begin to ask themselves the necessary questions, the better for all of us. Otherwise, we will be in this mess for much longer.
Well, this is a conversation we're having. As long as you stay glued to Breakfast Central or News Central, we would be having this conversation extensively. And we look forward to possibly also get your input on that. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you for your analysis concerning the newspaper front pages. We'll go on a quick break. We'll find out what Nigerians are saying. And our focus would be on the anti-graft agency that we've talked about, the EFCC, under fire for a recent raid in the southeast. Stay with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now let's take a look at what Nigerians are saying, because that would begin the entire part of this conversation that we are about to have. And like I rightly said before the break, our focus will be on the anti-graft agency, EFCC, which definitely is a story that's trending on the social media space, particularly on X, which happens to be our focus. Now, the EFCC is trending. And if you wonder why, well, I'm going to tell you this. Lend me your ears as I tell you the story. Now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has identified the individual responsible for the killing of its assistant superintendent, Sahabi Salisu, as a kidnapper and ritual killer operating under the guise of an internet fraudster. Now, let me tell you what happened. The FCC engaged in what they call a lawful operation on January 17, 2025 in Awka, Anambra State. While raiding a block of flats and apprehending 37 internet fraudsters, they decided to make one last raid on another flat. It turned out that the occupant had a licensed gun and did not hesitate to use it as the EFCC activated the usual commando break-in style for his refusal to open the door. Sadly, the occupant, whose name is Joshua Chukwueze Ikechukwu's gun, yes, that's his name, the gun actually killed an EFCC officer known as Salisu, as rightly mentioned earlier, and also injuring another officer. The FCC have since apprehended the occupant, who said he was a medical doctor, but was also quickly denied by the Association of Medical Doctors in Awka. Now, the anti-graft is stated that he is a ritualist and a Yahoo boy. But questions are arising. Why does the EFCC operate in the wee hours of the night, even though there was a ban recently? Now, did you also know that the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, a senior advocate of Nigeria, spoke critically about the lawlessness of the EFCC? Well, if you haven't or you didn't take note, well, take a look.
EFCC cannot continue to, behave as if there is no law. There is law. And if you want to do investigation, you do investigation before inviting the accused person. It is not a question of inviting him and you say, we have caught a big fish. Then at the end of the day, you say you are investigating. So that also goes to the issue of the pace at which the cost of justice travels. It can be slow, but it's very sure. And I take example from what is happening in the United States. Trump has a 2024 appointment or date in court. Believe me, some people will say, 2024.
Well, that's the senior advocate of Nigeria. I'm talking about one who currently works in the present administration, talking critically about the EFCC. Well, let's see how Nigerians are reacting, and I bet you the reactions will indeed get you very amazed. Let's start off first with the tweets and see what the tweets are saying. Well, if you go on X, you find the tweets there as well. Shehu Ghazali Sadiq says, EFCC cannot trace oil thieves. They cannot trace terrorism sponsors, but they can scale a fence to arrest someone with laptop. Let's see another one. The Crazy Smurf says, I hate how Nigeria robs you of your humanity at times. Case in point, the FCC guy who was shot. Who would think people will be openly happy at the death of another human? But of course, the system helped him become a menace to others who were innocent. Let's see this one. This one says, this was exactly what I experienced last year. Broke into my apartment, found nothing. Guess what is their submission? Wrong target. I had to undergo trauma therapy with my wife. That's from the Dawn. Well, another one says, I've never heard of any EFCC sting operation at the early hours of the morning happening in the north. Food for thought. I'm just saying, And let's take another tweet very quickly. If we've never seen any sting operation in the north, well, this one is a Nigerian award-winning artist, Scales. He went ahead to say that, Mr. Femi, I will never forget that night. I pray your family goes through worse than the trauma you put mine through. Mr. Femi of EFCC that came that day, I wish you goes ahead to make some very scarfing and very strong words. Very sad there as well. Another one says, FS Yusuf says, a laptop was found in a doctor's house and EFCC automatically called him a Yahoo boy. Dear young professionals, may your jackpot plans pull through fast. And let's see if we have one more. Solomon Buchi says, if Mark Zuckerberg was Nigerian, EFCC would have raided his dorm where he started Facebook and accused him of internet fraud because he had laptops and was caught coding. Nigeria is a hell for talents. Final one. There are educated Nigerians on X defending EFCC home raids using the excuse that the FBI raids homes by knocking down doors. Are you aware there's something called a warrant? Are you also aware they are dressed in uniform? Do you know the level of paperwork in place for an FBI tactical team to knock down your door? If your case gets to a point where the FBI team is breaking doors to arrest you, then of course you know the rest as well. Also worthy of note is that the EFCC, it says 2 years ago, banned the act. Well, these are some of the tweets that we can take very quickly. And the final one, when the EFCC wanted to investigate Yahya Bello, they called him on phone. He ignored them. They sent invitation. He ignored them. They went to get an arrest warrant and declared him wanted. He still ignored them. Why didn't the EFCC go to the Kogi government house at 3 a.m. to arrest Yahya Bello? I will tell you why. Because the EFCC know if they try that, they will be in quotes, uses that word slaughtered and their corpses will never be found. That's a bit derogatory there, but that's his comment, not ours and not mine. He goes there to say, so the EFCC had to wait till Yahya Bello voluntarily strolled to come see them himself at his own convenience. Just imagine the blatant disrespect, yet they did nothing to him. Well, that's all the tweets that we're going to take on this particular story. It's quite sad to see that the story has a different aspect and explanation as to what happened on that fateful day when the EFCC decided to raid the block of flats during the wee hours of the night. And Nigerians are still wondering, did the statement made by the EFCC head that no more raids at midnight go down well with its operative or its officers? Well, that's all that we're going to take on what Nigerians are saying on this particular story. Well, feel free to follow us on all socials and drop your comments on what you think as well on this story. And on that note as well, we've come to the end of Breakfast Central. Thanking you so much for joining us on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah, and I agree with the emotions that have surrounded this particular story. It's unfortunate that a life has been lost. Very, very unfortunate. And from what it looks, it might be 2 lives that would be lost in this case, because one person might have to spend some time in jail. But like Ikechukwu Amechi said, what we need at this point is truth. Unfortunately, I don't think that even the media itself, follows up on these stories enough to eventually, get the proper revelation that emerges at the end of these cases. If this person goes to court, what will eventually be revealed? Will the EFCC be able to prove that it did carry out a night raid, even if that was banned? Or rather, would this person be able to prove that? Would we eventually see that the EFCC showed up at this person's place, without their proper EFCC apparel and ID card? There's many questions that should be asked in a situation like this. Can he actually prove self-defense if that's what his claim is? Again, there's a media trial that EFCC is known for, but will we ever follow up and find out what the truth is, and the revelations that emerge from this? Only time will tell. But thank you very much for joining us this morning. We're going to be back here again tomorrow on Breakfast Central. For me, it's goodbye and see you tomorrow. I am Osaugi Ogbawa.
I'm Joe Hansen. Stay true and good morning.